In the vast sun-scorched sands of Libya, a conflict raged that history often overlooks. This is the story of the Second Italo-Senussi War, a brutal colonial struggle that lasted for nearly 2 decades. In the early 20th century, Italy, seeking to build its own colonial empire, set its sights on the Ottoman provinces in North Africa, which would later become Libya. However, they didn't anticipate the fierce resistance they would face from the local population. Led by the Senussi, a political religious Sufi order, the Italian invasion began in 1911, but their control was largely limited to coastal cities. The interior remained a heartland of resistance, a place where the Senussi tribes, masters of desert warfare, held sway. The conflict simmered and flared for years, but it entered its most intense phase in the 1920s with the rise of fascism in Italy. Benito Mussolini was determined to crush the rebellion once and for all and fully subjugate Libya, turning it into Italy's fourth shore. Leading the Libyan resistance was a man who would become a legend, Omar al-Mukhtar. An elderly Quranic teacher turned brilliant military strategist, he united disparate tribes under a single banner of defiance. For years, he led a masterful guerrilla campaign against the technologically superior Italian army. His fighters, known as the Mujahideen, used their intimate knowledge of the desert terrain to their advantage. They would strike Italian supply lines, ambush patrols, and then vanish back into the sands like ghosts. They were outnumbered and outgunned, fighting with outdated rifles against tanks, armored cars, and aircraft, yet their resolve was unbreakable. Frustrated by their inability to defeat Omar al-Mukhtar's forces in open combat, the Italian command, under the ruthless General Rodolfo Graziani, resorted to increasingly brutal tactics. Their strategy shifted from fighting the guerrillas to punishing the civilian population that supported them. They destroyed crops, poisoned wells, and confiscated livestock, aiming to starve the resistance into submission. The Italians believed that by cutting off the Mujahideen from their base of support, they could finally break the back of the rebellion. The most horrific part of this strategy was the establishment of concentration camps. Starting in 1930, the Italians rounded up tens of thousands of Bedouin men, women, and children from the region of Cyrenaica and forced them into squalid camps fenced with barbed wire in the harsh desert. Conditions were appalling, with little food, water, or sanitation. Disease and starvation were rampant. This was a deliberate policy to isolate the resistance fighters from their families and supplies. The nomadic way of life, which had sustained the people of Cyrenaica for centuries, was systematically destroyed. To further seal off the resistance, the Italians constructed a massive barbed wire fence along the border with Egypt, stretching for nearly 300 kilometers from the Mediterranean coast south into the desert. This formidable barrier, patrolled by armored cars and aircraft, was designed to stop reinforcements and supplies from reaching Omar al-Mukhtar's forces. He was now trapped within Libya, completely cut off from the outside world. Despite the immense pressure, Omar al-Mukhtar fought on. Even in his 70s, he personally led his men on the battlefield, a symbol of unyielding defiance. But the war of attrition was taking its toll. With his supply lines severe and his people suffering in camps, his forces dwindled. In September 1931, after nearly 20 years of fighting, Omar al-Mukhtar was wounded in battle and captured by the Italians. His capture marked the effective end of the organized resistance. The Italians held a show trial and just a few days later, publicly executed him. But their attempt to make an example of him backfired. Omar al-Mukhtar became a martyr and a powerful symbol of the fight for freedom against colonial oppression, not just for Libyans, but for people across the world. The Second Italo-Senussi War is a grim chapter of history, a testament to the brutal cost of colonial ambition and the enduring power of the human spirit to resist.